the second episode of our DGMC podcast series. Lord Buddha once said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserves your love and affection." What mental health needs is more sunlight, more condo, and more unashamed conversations. As said above, I have a very special guest to have one such unashamed conversation about mental health, its various aspects, and why it is important. Miss Zarina Poonawala is an award-winning certified leadership coach, peak performance coach, an EQ practitioner, celebrity life coach, podcast host. She is the founder of Abzo Expertise Unique, which constantly thrives on learning and evolving to benefit individuals, leaders, stakeholders, and organizations worldwide. She has also been conferred with awards and recognitions such as Women's Excellence Award in Leadership Contribution, Iconic Women Creating Better Lives, Life and Leadership Coach of the Year, Mental Health Awareness Icon, and Humanitarian Excellence Award in Coaching, amidst other accolades. She is the podcast host for the Life Manifesto with Zarina Poonawala, Kaam Ki Baat Zarina Ke Saath, the Empowering Series with Zarina Poonawala, and Monday Mantras on the IVM Podcasts, and is widely available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, JioSaavn Originals, Audio Boom, Stitcher, and you can listen to her podcasts anywhere. Her shows have garnered enormous leadership and continues to do so in 2 languages, Hindi and English. I feel very ecstatic that I get to welcome you. A heartiest welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shifa, and that was a very generous introduction to me. So thank you so much, and I'm really glad to be on your show here today.
We are glad to have you, ma'am. So, addressing the elephant in the room on one of the most basic questions ever asked is, how important is mental health?
Interesting question, and absolutely the elephant in the room, because I think a lot of people run away from this conversation. Now, let me just kind of break this up for you, Shifa. We look at health and then we look at mental health.
Yeah.
Mental health is part of your health, just like the physical, emotional aspects. So is mental health. But unfortunately, we people have stereotype and stigmatize the concept of mental health, because we feel that if somebody has a problem going on that we cannot see, it does not need to be addressed, right? You just kind of shove it under the rug. That's what mental health is all about. And how we should address it, how much we should address it, well, enough is not enough in this case, to be honest with you, because mental health is a conversation that you need to have with people on a daily basis. You need to understand where somebody is coming from, what are the battles people are facing in their lives, so that you can help them grow and kind of uplift them. And mental health is not something that needs to be discussed as we loosely discuss words around us, But unfortunately, we do. We talk about words like stress, anxiety, depression very loosely. So similarly, mental health recently has become a loose term. And if I can take the liberty to tell you, a lot of influencers and social media, they speak about mental health, but they do not have much knowledge on it. So you're supposed to be able to listen to experts, listen to therapists, listen to psychologists, understand the concept of mental health better to be able to address it, right? An important aspect of mental health is that if you're looking after your body, you want to look a certain way, you want to be fit. How can you not look after that one important tool, that one important aspect of your entire living being, your brain? How can you just let it be neglected, abandon it, and, just let it live in this space of overthinking, negative toxicity? So you have to learn the fact that mental health is extremely important, and any conversation is not enough to cover it, because we've got to keep talking about this as long and as often as we can.
That's amazing. I mean, thinking that your body and your mental health is different, बहुत लोग ऐसा करते हैं, तो I think this gets it straight. This is a very direct question, but then it's very inevitable that one's sexuality, sexual practices, or for that matter of fact, sexual preferences contribute a lot in increased stress and anxiety. What's your take on it?
It's true. It's very true. Unfortunately, a section of the community undergoes something known as minority anxiety. All right, and that section is your LGBTQA. Let me share some trivia with you here. Earlier in the 1960s and 1970s, homosexuality was considered legalized and considered to be a mental disorder. Okay, so naturally the fight that these people have had to go through, the community has had to go through to create their presence and to be able to live the way they want to live and to just be, right? Obviously it takes a massive toll on your mental health. There is a lot of stress and anxiety. The stress starts from the fact that you're not accepted. You're not accepted for who you are. You're constantly struggling with your identity and you have a problem with finding a space where you can belong. People don't allow you to belong.
True.
And that's difficult, And that's difficult for anybody, let alone the LGBTQ community, if I have to say so. But the fact is that their stress and anxiety levels are much higher, and it has been shown in research and studies as well, because they do have minority anxiety. That means that constant feeling of abandonment, of not belonging somewhere, of having to prove that they're just as everybody else is, They have the same heart, they probably have the same functioning organs, they have the same emotions. The only thing they have different is the people that they want to fall in love with and be with, and who they want to partner with. And unfortunately, that acceptance, although we have it with Section 377, it's not really out there. People still have a problem, and they're finding it very hard to come out of the closet even today.
Yeah,
right.
True.
So, of course, it has a massive take on their mental health, and it should be addressed.
So, stress. I have been hearing this word, since forever, okay?
Right.
Which, if loosely translated, means a feeling of emotional or physical tension. When do you think one starts experiencing stress and anxiety in their lives?
One never stops experiencing stress and anxiety in their lives. I'm going to say this very safely because I work with people of different age groups, and you see, a child who doesn't get a toy is equally hyper and stressed and pressurizing the parents as somebody your age who's in uni is probably stressed about exams or friends or something like that. And then comes my generation, who is stressed about work or survival or being able to live our lives. So you see, there's stress constantly. But Shifa, there's something that people don't know about stress. Stress is negative and positive. Okay? So you have distress and you have eustress. Distress meaning the negative stress, which brings us down, which probably has symptoms on our body. We get affected, If some people get stressed out, they start having cluster headaches, or they suddenly have a pain in their back, or, they kind of feel nauseous and things like that. That is stress for you. Now, eustress is the positive stress. What is the positive stress? It is the stress before a performance. Right? So if supposing you've studied really hard for an exam and you're stressed, you're nervous, when you go for the exam, you do well, which means that stress was good for you. It was eustress.
Yeah.
The stress of performance, let's say for a marathon or an Olympic race, where you feel that, no, I have to make sure that I do not cross 4 minutes. And to be able to do that, an athlete has to put themselves under the pressure of performance, and that is eustress. So unfortunately, the problem is not stress. The problem is how we deal with stress. Everybody tells you, stop feeling like this. You can't stop a feeling.
Yeah.
How do you stop a feeling? You're crying, somebody says stop crying. तो ऐसे ही थोड़ी रोना बंद हो जाता है ना? You don't stop crying. Stop being angry. You can't stop. Okay, that's the whole point. Stress, emotions, anxiety, all these things have to be managed. Not even controlled, I'd say.
Yeah.
Just managed. What can you do to manage it better? What can you do to acknowledge your situation? So that's stress for you. And anxiety, on the other hand, I'd say is prolonged stress. It's kind of more chronic in a way. And it's got different symptoms. It's kind of the effect of stress.
Okay. So now that you have given a difference between stress and anxiety, there's an itch in my head to ask you this question, because lately we all have been hearing this word quite often, depression.
Oh yes, of course.
A lot of people have been calling themselves depressed without understanding the meaning and the struggle behind the term. they are unable to make discretion between being upset and being depressed, whereas being depressed is is different on a lot more levels than being upset. So what do you think about that?
I'm going to link these three words for you. You're quite right. The word is being used loosely. But I'm going to say even the word stress is being used loosely.
Yeah.
It's a medical term. Okay, you don't go around saying, yeah, of course, because the pandemic has hit us really badly. Every cold and flu seems like a COVID case to us now.
True.
But that is not the case with these terms. These are medical terms. There are treatments to them. So starting with stress and anxiety, I'm going to go down to depression. Like I said, stress is pressure. It can be positive and negative, and we all have a little bit of stress. It can show physiological effects on our body. Anxiety, on the other hand, is chronic stress, prolonged.
Yeah.
Okay, where you become very moody, right? You've started seeing things very cynically. You become very negative. And depression is even worse. And in anxiety, you can have panic attacks, right? Palpitation. Your body has many more reactions to the process of anxiety as compared to stress. And then depression, on the other hand, is basically you lying, just imagine, you lying under a very still ocean. Nobody can see you, but you're drowning in there.
Okay.
That's what depression is. Now, problem is, people use this word loosely. You're quite right. Like, you'll hear a school-going kid say, I'm depressed because my principal has written a note for my parents and I have to get a signature, which I don't know if that happens anymore. I'm talking about my days in school, actually.
I don't think that happens anymore.
Yeah, I realize that. And then you have, my I don't want to attend my online classes. I'm so depressed. I'm so upset. So the problem is people confuse sadness, being upset, being lonely, being vulnerable with depression.
Yeah.
That is the problem here. Depression is basically, it can be you constantly, permanently feeling very moody. You can't see sort of the silver lining at all. You want to do better with your life, but you can't physically or mentally get yourself to do anything more. People can pep talk you all you want, but it doesn't help. It doesn't change anything for you. You really want to try to change yourself, but something is holding you back. It's basically, depression is more like a little bit of a prison feeling. And when people use the word very, very loosely, like you said, whether it's stress or anxiety or depression, I get a little annoyed, to be honest with you, because you don't know there are people suffering.
True.
And then again, something like depression goes into different disorders.
Yeah.
That has to be addressed medically. There are treatments or things like that for it. And people have to respect that. For instance, you don't say that, I'm going to let me use a very, very strong kind of disease for this. Nobody says, I'm feeling cancerous today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, nobody. Yeah.
It's a disease, it is life-threatening, and people suffer. The same thing is with depression. When you use the term loosely without realizing the consequences or the intensity, what you really are doing is you're taking away from the people who are actually suffering of it.
True.
So that's my take on depression, yes.
The reason why I brought up this question is because I knew a friend who was actually really depressed, and she was undergoing treatment and all that. And in front of us, there's this person having a conversation, and she went like, "Yaar, मैं तो आज बहुत depressed हूँ." And my friend was like, ये आज depressed है. What is this going on? मतलब ये क्या चल रहा है? Why are the, depression का मतलब नहीं पता, depression क्या होता है वो नहीं पता, and just loosely using the term like you said, that they cannot relate कि depression क्या होता है and being upset or being sad or being angry क्या होता है. So I think, what you said is like an apt description of what depression is.
And like your friend said, आज depressed है. That's the whole point. That's the key statement.
Exactly. आज तुम depressed कैसे हो सकते हो? Depression is long,
because depression is like you're literally feeling like that constantly every day, day in, day out.
True. True.
So yes.
So coming back to one of the previous questions about sexuality, and since we are in a college, there is a variety of people having different sexualities, or belonging to the LGBTQ community. I know that there are a lot of people who are okay with people's choices, but there's a lot of disregard. there's a lot of emotional baggage that they have to carry because of not getting the acceptance that they deserve. How would you address this concern?
You have very interesting and deep questions thrown at me. All right. So you're right about this. Like I said, that it has been legalized to some level, but there is still a lack of acceptance. And that is exactly what you're talking about over here.
Yeah.
I think what needs to happen is people have to be able to understand that your choices are your own. Okay?
Yeah.
And whatever, no matter what your choices to remain single, to be married, to have children, not have children, to be with a partner of the same gender or different genders, it's all about you. What people do is they put you in this stereotypical box of judgment. And this is not only for a particular community, it's for all of us. Even those who are not part of it. You take people with disabilities, for example. They go through this series of judgments all the time as well. Normal people like you and I go through judgments every single day.
Yeah.
But the fact is that this is true. People judge us, and as a community, like I said, minority anxiety, even more, they're judged. And when they're being judged, it's important for them to stay together. There have to be a few people who can stand up. It's not that they're oppressed. It's not that they're suppressed, but it is important that there are people who can stand up and say, hey, you know what, we are with you. So when you see a group of people behaving like that with friends or acquaintances in college, you want to just be there and be like, hey, you know, is there a problem?
Yeah.
So I think what is important is between the oppressed and the oppressor, it is important to have a voice. And that voice comes from people who don't belong to any community. That's
True.
how you stand up. Meaning, you know, if the poor people are constantly saying I'm poor, that's not resolving the issue, right?
No.
Somebody somewhere has to decide that, okay, I want to be Robin Hood or I want to do something for them and I want to take the mantle and help the poor.
Yeah.
The same goes for, say, any community. How much can they fight for themselves? They need people who just live regular lives and who probably do not understand where they come from, what they belong to, but understand one thing, that they have the right to do so. They have the right to live their lives. And a large part of this also comes from self-doubt and comparison, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't want to digress from this topic because this is very specific. But yeah, it does lead to a lot of self-doubt. People start feeling judged and also families. Families play an important part in this. You have to be supportive. You can't change somebody's decisions. But at the same time, I completely understand when you come from an Indian family, not only Indian families, but even abroad, if you see religious families of any religion, they will stand against this concept, which is fine, which is their thought process. Okay, we can respect that. But the point is, they also have to learn to respect somebody else's choices.
Yeah.
You know, so when it comes to families, I think families, friends play an important role. People who are not from the community play an important role. People who can actually help to uplift all these people who are feeling, you know, so low about themselves and feeling like they do not belong. Everybody has to come together to help them out.
True. But do you think as being Indians, it is considered as a taboo? For a few years back, till, you know, Section 377 was, implemented, usse pehle people thought that it was a taboo to be, interested in the person of the same gender. So I think that mindset is not going to change for another 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. What do you think, how is that going to, even raising your voice, how's that going to change the mentality of the people already existing with the mentality of it being taboo?
You're right. You're right about this, and I wouldn't deny or disagree. And you're saying 20 years, I'll give it 30. I'll give it another 50, let's say.
Okay.
Because at this point in time, there's an amount of progression in the country, and we're also being very regressive and intolerant. So I really don't know how long we're going to take to get to that point where everybody's okay. But how do you climb a mountain, Shifa?
I mean, you just climb.
How do you climb a mountain? One step at a time.
Yeah.
You can't look at the mountain and decide that, oh, this is such a big mountain. How do I climb it?
Yeah. You have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere. And I think this is the starting point. people helping each other out is the starting point. So for example, in the family, if people are listening to me, then this is what you do. I had a case, so I'll quickly share with you. One of my clients recently told me that not my client, but a client's friend's son came out to them, and the parents didn't know what to do.
I mean, parents are usually, they don't know what to do.
Right. But they don't know what to do because they're also parents for the first and the second time in their lives.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely understandable, especially if it's the older child. They really have a different way of dealing with the older child.
Yeah.
It's just a natural
They also have
process.
different expectations from the older child.
Yeah, they also have different expectations because they are parents for the first time. With the older one, right? So they're learning themselves how to be parents.
Yeah.
Now this situation occurred, and my client, he was really flustered because he had a 2-hour long conversation with me, trying to tell me the boy has come and spoken to me. He's told the parents, and the parents are furious. What can I do? Should I change the boy's mind? And I said, that's not your job, and that's neither the parents' job. Your job is not to change your minds. Your job is to only be able to understand that, okay, you don't accept something, that's fine. But you need to tell this boy that give us some time. Let us understand the concept. Let us understand what's going on, because we don't know. We don't come from that school of thoughts. We do have a problem. We're struggling with this. But do not dismiss somebody entirely because you're throwing them into, the sea without a float and telling them try and swim. They're not going to be able to. It's a struggle.
Yeah.
Do not leave them alone to struggle in a time like this. All you need to tell parents, and this goes to parents all over, it's okay. I mean, I'm not saying support or don't support. I'm just saying open your mind a little bit.
Right.
Just a little bit. Instead of being like, नहीं, ये हमारे घर में नहीं होता, ऐसा नहीं होता, वैसा, which I understand.
A little modesty would do.
थोड़ा सा, just basically turn around and be like, okay, हमको नहीं समझ में आ रहा है. ये क्या है ये कॉन्सेप्ट, और ये बेसिकली अभी ये फैशन हो गया है, सब करते हैं तो तुम भी कर रहे हो, वैसा आप सोचो. ठीक है, थोड़ा टाइम दो, हमें सोचने दो, हमें समझने दो ये क्या है, हमें समझने दो. जैसे आप हो, हमारे बच्चे हो, तो हम तो आपको प्यार करेंगे ही.
Yeah.
You understand? That is that one step at a time of climbing a mountain. And that's all I guess we need, little support here and there.
Right. So I think a lot of people who are hearing this and who belong to other sexual communities can relate to this, most probably, because that was like a very deep, answer to one of the very, very important questions.
Right.
So, relating to the topic, I would like to talk about sex education. A very big question mark comes when we do not encourage schools and colleges promoting sex education in India. There is no doubt India, being the second most populated country in the entire world, is quite sexually active. And yet we do not educate people about, sex, when it comes to sex. Another point that is considered to be taboo, by Indians to openly announce that they are having sex. So, what do you think? So that's about it for this episode. Stay tuned to unravel the answer for this question and many more questions in the next episode. So this is me, Shifa Khan, signing off. Stay safe and stay healthy.